Welcome to Girl Choose Yourself, where we're trading self-doubt for self-trust and settling for soaring. I'm Emer Zone, your host, and together we're building the confidence to create lives so deliciously bold that they scare us a little, but in the best possible way. Because life's too precious to stay cozy in our comfort zones. It's time to choose ourselves for lives that are fabulous and soulfully fulfilling. So let's go. What do you want? It's such a simple question, isn't it? 3 words, and yet I have sat with women, smart, capable, deeply feeling women, and watched something happen when I ask that question. There's like a flicker of panic almost, perhaps a nervous laugh, a silence that isn't peaceful, because they don't know. They don't know, and not knowing, it feels embarrassing. It feels maybe ridiculous even, like they should have the answer. And I know that feeling. I've sat with that same silence myself, and longer than I'd like to admit. And if that's where you are right now, if someone asks you what you want and you feel the same sort of blank, slightly panicked silence upon you, I want you to know something before we go any further. That is not a you problem. What I think is actually happening for so many women, especially in midlife, is something I call a people-pleasing hangover. Like you've spent years, maybe even decades, centering other people, everyone else, your partner, maybe your children, your family, the mood of the room, the needs of the job. And you got very, very good at reading other people, but somewhere along the way, probably without even noticing, you lost the ability to truly read yourself. It's like that muscle atrophied. And not because something is wrong with you, because you never really got to use it. And here's what I want to name clearly, because it matters. It isn't personal failure. It most definitely is not personal failure. Women are not just encouraged to abandon themselves. We are shaped for it. Culturally, historically, we've been sold self-sacrifice as though it were a virtue. We've been sold that for so long that wanting, like just the simple act of wanting something for ourselves, that can feel selfish. It can feel greedy. It can feel wrong, suspect, like something that we need to justify. It isn't. And this episode today is about why. I want to start off by telling you a story about a woman named Anna Mary Robertson Moses. You might know her as Grandma Moses. She was born in 1860 on a farm in upstate New York, and as a little girl, she loved to draw and paint. She'd use berry juice and grape juice to make colours, paint on anything that she could find. Her father encouraged it, but her mother thought she should spend her time more practically. So she did, and she spent her time practically for the next 60 years. She worked as a hired hand from the age of 12. She married, she moved to Virginia, she farmed the land, she had 10 children, 5 of whom didn't survive infancy. She cared for those children and her family. She cooked, she sewed, she kept house. And when she had a creative moment, she embroidered. She embroidered scenes of farm life, gifts for family and friends. That was what there was time for, from a creative perspective. And life moved on. Her husband died. She got older. And then arthritis made even embroidery too painful to do. Her sister then suggested that she try painting instead. At this stage, she was 78 years old. She set up in her bedroom with house paint and whatever canvas that she could find, whatever she could find to paint with and on, and she painted scenes from her childhood. The maple sugar harvest, the landscape she had loved as a girl, whatever she felt deep within her that was important to her, she painted. And for 2 years, her paintings sat in the window of a local drugstore, displayed alongside preserves and handicrafts, and nobody paid much attention to her work. But one afternoon in 1938, an art collector drove through her town, saw her art in the window of that drugstore, stopped, went in and bought every single piece. She went on to paint over 1,500 works. 1,500 works. She was featured on the cover of Time magazine at the age of 93. She painted until a few months before her death, which was at the age of 101. And here's what gets me about this story. What looks like sort of a late discovery in life, a sweet old lady who found a hobby and a way to, spend her time in her twilight years, was actually something that had been there all along, that had been there since she was that little girl making landscapes out of berry juice. The desire that she had never left her. It just waited quietly, patiently for 60 years underneath the farming and the mothering and the centering everybody else and the embroidering and the grief. It waited because it was hers. It belonged to her. And when the door finally opened, like even just a crack, it walked right through. That's what I believe desire does. It waits. It doesn't give up on you, no matter what life is throwing at you. Even when you've given up on it, it just does not give up on you. Here's what I believe. I believe we come into this amazing world from somewhere else. And that before we arrived, before the noise, before the roles, before we learned what was expected of us, we knew something. We had a sense of what this life was for. What we came here to do, to feel, to become. And then we forgot. Because that's just part of the deal. Part of being human and embodied and in it. The forgetting happens. But I don't think what we knew is gone. I think it's still there, quiet, patient, waiting, like Grandma Moses and that creative pulse within her. And I think our desires, the ones that keep whispering to us, even when we try to silence them, the dreams we've half dismissed as too much or too late or too self-indulgent, I think those are the remembering. Those are the remembering. The soul nudging us, saying, hey, psst, look over here. This matters to you. You haven't forgotten as much as you think. So when I talk about getting back in touch with what you want, I'm not talking about making a wish list. I'm talking about something older, more ancient than that. Something that was yours before anyone told you who to be. And I want to say something else about wanting, because I think it's really important to hear this. Desire is not frivolous. It's not selfish. It's not something to be managed or justified or apologized for. It is information. It is directional. To honor your desires is to really honor the mystery of why you are here. living this human life. But I want to make a distinction here that's very important. There's desire and then there's compulsion. Okay? And they can look similar. They can look similar from the outside, but they feel very different from the inside. So compulsive behavior like the scrolling, that glass of wine, the online shopping, the busyness, the constant doing, that's not desire. That's avoidance, wearing desire's clothing. It's what we reach for when the real feelings get too loud and we need to turn the volume down. We're looking to soothe and distract. And there's no judgment in that because we've all experienced it. We all still do at times. I do it. I see it a little bit quicker these days, thankfully. So my shoe collection has decreased massively. But it's worth being able to tell the difference. Real desire, the kind that I'm talking about, doesn't leave you feeling emptier afterwards. It doesn't leave you feeling self-judgmental or regretful. It doesn't require you to not think about something. It has a real quality of aliveness to it, even when it's scary, even when it feels impossibly far away. It pulls you forward rather than numbing what's behind you. And if you're not sure which is which, that's okay, because that's actually part of the work. Getting quiet enough to tell the difference is one of the most important things that you can learn to do. And the vision that you're building, the life you're trying to remember your way back to, it doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to impress anyone. It's not for anyone else. It doesn't need to be a dramatic reinvention or a TED talk or a second act that looks good from the outside and everybody else is applauding. It can be quiet, entirely private, known only to you. The size doesn't matter. The ownership does. It's personal. And we all deserve something magnetic, personally magnetic, to move towards. Not because we should be more productive or more ambitious, but because a life lived without any sense of direction is a life spent endlessly reacting to everyone else's. And we're allowed to have a direction that just belongs to us. We all do. It's like, I believe, our sacred work here. Make it truly yours. So how to begin? And I want to be honest with you here. I'm not going to give you a goal-setting framework. Those can be helpful at times, but that's not what we're talking about here and now. That's not what this is. Because if you've spent years disconnected from what you want, sitting down and trying to answer the question, what do I want? It's a little like trying to hear a whisper in a loud room. The conditions aren't right yet. So we kind of need to come at it at a different angle. It's kind of like a side door in, if you will. And the first way is this. Kind of go back. Go back before the conditioning got so loud. Not to your last job or your last relationship or even last year, but further, much further back than that. What did you love before you became everything to everyone else? What did you love? Not what you were necessarily great at, but what lit you up. It's like the flame was lit inside of you. What did 10-year-old you do where time just disappeared? Where did you lose yourself, like in the best possible way? What did that look like? What were you doing? Who were you with? This isn't nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. It's reconnaissance. Okay? Because that girl, before she learned to make herself agreeable, before she learned to shrink or perform or fit in or manage everyone else's comfort, she knew things. She knew things about you that are still true this day. They're still in there, and they are still worth listening to. The second entry point that can be helpful, and this one might surprise you, we often hear, follow your bliss. Here I'm going to ask you to follow the resentment. I know, not the most glamorous spiritual practice, but resentment is desire with nowhere to go. Desire with nowhere to go. It's what happens when something in you has been wanting and consistently not being heard. So instead of pushing it away or feeling guilty about it, get curious. Where in my life do I feel consistently flat, drained, quietly resentful? Don't judge it, but notice it, because the opposite of that feeling is almost always pointing directly at something you want and have been denying yourself. So resentment can actually be really helpful data. It just needs to be read correctly. And the third entry point that can be helpful is the gentlest one, I think. You just start noticing moments of aliveness, of vibrancy, like not in theory, like this week. Start noticing. When did time disappear? When did you feel, even for a moment, even slightly more like yourself? When did something make you lean in rather than check out? And those moments, I think, they're really like, they're hints, they're data, they're like breadcrumbs. They can be really small moments, quite quiet, perhaps easy to dismiss, but you start collecting them. You start collecting them instead of dismissing them, because they are pointing to something. And then, and this is a practice I want to leave you with, get quiet. Not to force an answer, not to perform some version of having it all together, or, sitting down and in the quiet pretending to be, some perfect meditator, but just begin to be open by creating these conditions in quiet. We live in such a busy world that is really driven by distraction. So it's almost a radical act to allow yourself time in quiet. And it's in these moments that we can really hear clearly what perhaps has been whispering to us or nudging us quietly for so long, maybe years and years. So just find 10 minutes, somewhere you won't be interrupted. Sit down. Take a few long, deep breaths. Let the noise begin to settle. The planning, the worrying, the list making, the to-do list, just notice it, name it, and let it go. You're not trying to solve anything. You're just getting still enough to hear what is underneath. And then pose that question softly, without pressure. What do I want? And listen, without editing, without immediately deciding it's too much, or it's too late, or it's too ridiculous, or getting impatient with the noise of all the thoughts in your head. Just allow the space. Whatever comes up, let it be there. And this isn't a one-time exercise, it's a practice. And that muscle comes back slowly, and then with time and with tending, it comes back strong. And this is what we're looking for in this practice of remembering. Because it is your one wild and precious life. And for many of us, we haven't truly owned it for the longest time. And we need to be gentle with ourselves as we acknowledge that and open ourselves up to something that's been there all along, so that we can receive it again now and take ownership of it and nurture it. because it will feel like home and like a form of belonging that we will recognize on a deep, ancient level. I'm going to leave it there this week. I hope this has served you. And if you haven't read the book yet, Choose Yourself, you will find exercises like this in the book that might help you if this episode has resonated. Have a wonderful week. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks so much for tuning into the episode this week. I hope you got a lot out of it, and if you did, please share it with somebody who you feel would benefit. And leave a review. Always greatly appreciated. Lots of free and paid resources to take things a step further. You can find those in the show notes. And hey, if nobody's told you this yet today, you are amazing, and the world is a far more beautiful place because you're here with us all. Stay cool. Bye.